I feel like, yeah, Stepanak, they've been doing wonderful. You know what I'm saying? So, best team in the New York metropolitan area is a better fit for them. Now, the best team in the city, when I think of New York City, I think of the 5 boroughs.
Indeed.
The Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, and Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So, for this year, let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
let's fix it. For this year, the best team in the city resides in East New York, Brooklyn.
Okay, and that is Thomas Jefferson.
By far.
If we talking New York metropolitan area, you got Stepanak, because that's a broader area we talking about.
Yeah, New York metropolitan area, it's a toss-up between Lehigh.
Yeah, I was about to be, where does Lehigh fall into this? Because I feel like people in New York that are in the high school scene tends to just put Lehigh in a separate bracket by themselves.
Right, yeah, you can't. So, yeah, it's a toss-up between them.
Oh man. We are back once again. I've been taking too many hiatus moments, but I promise you guys that we'll get back on track. I think we have another esteemed guest. 10 years in the business, just celebrated his 10-year anniversary, starting with just an idea. You've probably seen him on your favorite high school's baseline, your favorite college baseline, maybe even your favorite street ball baseline. At this point, there's just a few things that this man hasn't done, or many events that he hasn't done. At this point, I might as well just introduce my guest. Mr. Dave's Joint is in the building. Can we get a round of applause in the building? Dave's Joint, welcome. How you feeling?
I'm good, Sway. Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, introduce yourself to the people. First name, last name, and what would you specifically call yourself in this business that you are in?
So, for those that don't know my name, I'm David Cordova, and I'm basically a journalist and a photographer, so multi-journalist.
Okay. Sports journalist, photo and print journalism.
Right.
First, I realized that, in my attempt at researching the man that I'm looking in front of, one of the first things I remembered and recollected was that he has a website where he puts certain print media. For those that don't know, print media, I know print media is starting to get phased out a little bit with the emergence of photo and video, but you have articles, blogs, whatever you want to specifically call it. But you have these things on your website. Dave's Joint is the link. I'll put it in the description. And your first ever post was March 28, 2015. Do you remember the title of said piece at all?
Wow. That was so long ago. I think it might have been the Unsigned Hype.
Ding, ding, ding. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. The first post read this: Unsigned Hype showcase assists in giving youth opportunities. And it featured the top NYC unsigned seniors with 40 JUCO coaches was there. And, you even had a sponsorship on the flyer. Talk about that. What was your first mindset trying to get this first post out? And was this the first step to your attempt at multimedia journalism?
So prior to that, I had started with a company called Hardwood Insiders. Shouts to Paul Johnson. He was the guy that started me. And first and foremost, writing was something I loved to do as a little kid. But as far as Dave's Joint was concerned, that started basically, it was one day I had an idea, and 5 days later I came up with that article, because that was something that I wanted to do to get it off the ground. So everybody that doesn't know, March 23rd, 2015 was the very day I went on WordPress and started my site.
Got you. So let's go back into some time of your youth, right? You just said you liked writing from when you was a little kid.
Right.
Who sparked that, and how did that come about?
Basically, since I was a kid, I loved to read, but I basically learned journalism just reading, basically reading the paper. That was one of the things I loved to do, and also Slam magazine.
Okay.
And that was the big thing for me, because obviously there was times when I was younger that I couldn't afford Slam, but when I was 12 years old, I got to meet Ben Osborne. He was working for Slam Magazine at the time. So he came to my school. Like, I went to MS 224. But for those that don't know how New York City public schools works, there's multiple schools in one building. So we were in the same building as South Bronx Prep. And basically, my counselor at the time, he invited me down to see this presentation. And then I met Ben that day, and then that's when everything changed. Like, I even still have the folder with his autograph on it. It had all the Slam covers from its start from 1994. So I still have that to this day.
Do you have a favorite Slam cover by any chance?
Oh man,
I know there's a lot. They do
Yo,
about
it's
a
too
few a
many
year,
of them.
but
I can't give you.
all right, can you give me like 3 to 5 maybe? I know that's still a lot. I know.
I know the one with Sebastian and LeBron.
Okay.
That one.
That was about 0203.
Yeah, that's about right. Let's see. Yeah, that's the only one that could come to mind.
All right.
Now.
I mean, those are two goats. Those are
Yeah.
two goats. So let's look at it like this, right? So in that youth, you spoke about Ben Osborne, but I realized, and also in some of my research, you also went to SUNY Delhi.
I did.
Talk about that time over there. How was that also another stepping stone in your development as a sports media journalist as well?
So I went to 4 different colleges.
All right, talk to me. Let's spill the tea.
Bronx Community College, 3 different stints. Onondaga Community College in Syracuse, SUNY Delhi, as you just mentioned, and I graduated from St. Francis College in Brooklyn. What was the question again?
Was this college stop? Did it have a certain impact on your development as a sports media journalist?
Well, at that time, that's basically when everything started. When I came back from the city, from SUNY Delhi, that's when basically I started everything. And now that I was back in the city, I would be able to see more. Because for those that may not know, Delhi is 3 and some change hours away, all the way up in the Catskill Mountains. So you're not
Upstate
really
life.
Yeah, so where it's cold, so you're not going to get to see much. But once I was back in the city and I was back at BCC again, I was still able to go to games, games like Catholic League, PSAL. So yeah.
So I could tell your love for sports also started when you were younger as well. Has basketball been your focus since then?
Always.
Okay. All right. So somebody that's I realized from your first piece that you posted on your website, somebody that was featured in that piece as well was the legendary Coach Tippy. Speak about how, if you remember, how you and him met, and could you try to describe his importance to New York City basketball?
I can't really remember how I met Tippy, but from what I know, he's always been around. One thing I can say about Tippy is that he's always been a vehicle for a lot of kids from his days from Brooklyn, USA, to the present. For, I would say, maybe 30, 40 years, he's been one of those guys that's always been an outlet for the kids, helping them get scholarships, helping them get opportunities. Shout outs to Tippy.
Facts. Shout out Coach Tippy. So from your website, we have your Instagram. Sadly, the original Instagram got hacked, whatever it was, 12K. Happens on Instagram these days. But that Instagram, you have newspaper drops. You have different types of posts called Lost Files, Faces in the Crowd.
Yeah.
On this day. So it gives a very historic tone to your page. Why is that?
That was just the way I always planned it, like for Dave's joint. What I try to do is try to get the masses to actually see what moments there were and moments that, a lot of people don't really know about. So I try to bridge the gap between the generations, bring the old and the new together.
Okay. When you speak about bridging generations, let's get into it. How old are you, and where are you from specifically? Because I hear the Bronx a lot, but I don't know. Are you really from uptown? Because I see you in Brooklyn just as much as I see you uptown. So try to give the people.
So I'm 32, and I'm from the South Bronx.
South Bronx. Okay. So in terms of what we call borough rivalries,
oh
right?
Boy,
I ain't gonna put you on the hot seat just yet. All right.
All right.
But talk about that, how you're able to travel to these different spots in New York City, no matter where they are, what time it is. Why is that? And that takes a certain level of dedication at some point.
No, I just basically go whatever's going on that day. I just feel like heading there. You know what I'm saying? If it's something that's interesting to me, I'll figure it out. You know, I usually have a monthly metro or a weekly metro, so yeah.
Facts, because you don't drive. So,
I
like,
don't.
yeah. So, talk, like, I know you said you just pick a game that you like and stuff like that. But
Right.
what about the days when you're tired? I even, in some of my research, I saw somebody took a picture of you sleeping on the baseline.
Yeah, there's been a few.
So when it gets like that, do you ever think of, damn, I'm too tired to even cover this game?
No, I still go.
Still go, no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the things that drive you to continue doing those things when you feel like you don't want to do it?
It's just the love. It's just the love for it. It's like, it's a passion. You know, that's basically the best way I could really describe it.
The passion. All right. Let's keep it moving. You have taken your sports coverage to a different level, right? One thing I always realize is the youth always gravitate towards you. You've been in the game a little bit, not even a little bit, for a long time.
Right.
So the youth start to see a familiar face and they understand who you are and what you do. Let's talk about media-player relationships. The reason why I got into this space, or one of the reasons why I like being in this space, is to bridge the gap on the professional level, hopefully when I get there, and even on this level. Because when we see in the professional style, just for an example, Stephen A. and LeBron James,
Right.
that's a thing that shouldn't really be publicized and even put on TV.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be behind closed doors conversation.
Right.
So talk about how you feel a media-player relationship should be.
Always cordial. You always gotta have, you know what I'm saying, the best interest of both parties at heart, yours and that person's. Try to treat them as normal as possible, you know. You don't gotta be buddy with them, but always have that respect there.
Always have that respect. Has there ever been a point where you've had an awkward moment with a player when you're just trying to cover them or potentially give them more eyes on them?
Not really, no.
Not really. Okay, all right. No
Everything's
problem.
been cordial for the most part.
Would you say New York City has a way with their media and relationships and with their players? Describe that from what you see from afar.
If they have a way, like when you say a way, like what do you like? Can you
Like, for example, for me, right? If you
Okay.
see me someplace with a certain individual team or a coach or a player, do you potentially think that I move a certain way to potentially put myself with this person? Or would you say I'm more of a genuine thing? Do you see that a lot in New York City?
Okay, so that's a good question. So there are people that, you know, they do this for relationships, and then you got those that are just trying to get on. You know, I never tried to get on with anybody just to be around. Like, I always had a love for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Everything I've done is straight from the heart, straight genuine. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I've seen a lot of people there's people like you, because you do a lot of great jobs, with, especially with the documentary with Nazareth.
Mm-hmm.
I always watched it religiously, every episode. So,
Appreciate
you know what I'm
that.
saying? That's amazing. But, you know, there are some people that get into this for not so right reasons.
So let's piggyback off that a little bit. Maybe the influx of media for certain events that aren't usually guys that have been in their PSAL or Catholic League, that have been on regular games on a Tuesday, Monday night. These guys come in for the big games and they usually get the clearance. Talk about that when certain times people invade our city just for the big time games.
Yeah, I mean, social media has a part in that. Like, some people, they don't really, I don't want to say check in, but it's just like they don't really deal with the right people. They just pop out. You know what I'm saying? But whenever people try to come through to say, they always like, and I was just talking to somebody from DC today. He was like, yo, let me know when the games are. You know, like if there's somebody from out of town, I always try to let them know, like, okay, this is what's going on this day, and this is what's going on there. Some players that you want to check out, just let me know, da-da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to do it like that. But, yeah, like, And even in the playoffs, you saw it. Like it was always people coming around from out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like they just don't know the proper channels of how to go about things. And then when you do that, it just makes you look like you doing this for the clickbait. You know what I'm saying? And that's frowned upon by many. So I just feel like you should always do the research in getting to talk to the right people in order to get access to these events. Because the people that you speak to, eventually they'll remember how you came up, how you came up to them, and you know, you just want to always make a good first impression.
For sure. In terms of that, we can go a couple different ways with that. But when you go out of state, right, because you are a man that travels
That's
and
true.
doesn't confine yourself to New York City only. So when you travel, let's say Connecticut, I've seen you there. You've gone to Vegas before. You're about to go to D.C. in a couple of days for the Jordan Brand Classic. When you go to these different states, how are you received as one of New York's prime media outlets?
Oh, people show me a lot of love when I go to certain places. CT, Jersey, Philly, even as far as Atlanta. I remember about 9 years ago, yeah. So I'm in Peach Jam in South Carolina. Colin Sexton's peoples, they knew who I was. They was like, oh, Dave's joint. So even now, like even to this day, like I could be in a different part of the country. Well, once I say my name, people light up. Like recently at the Throne, like I was sitting to have a conversation with the team that Luhai played in the championship, Allen, and they once I said my name, they was like, "Oh, we know you." So that was love right there.
Do you feel better when the youth know who you are, or when certain big time corporations that are running these events know who you are?
Both.
Both. Okay, could you try to describe the both sides of that coin?
So at least the kids, it's like it's a way for them to feel, more comfortable. Like it's like once they feel comfortable with you, it's easier to get certain interviews, and certain questions that you ask, it separates you from everybody else because you got the mainstream media that are like vultures. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes these kids unfortunately can't trust them. And then, so with me, it's like having a normal conversation. That's the way I like to approach my interviews. And as far as the corporations, like it's a beautiful thing when they know who you are. That allows me to move differently in certain places. Like for example, like when I did the McDonald's All-American game when it came to Brooklyn recently. Shout outs to Brad Shulkin from Golden. So the day that the rosters were announced, apparently, I didn't have my phone on at the time, but apparently there was an error in one of the players' spelling. So it was him and somebody else that reached out to me to take down the post that I had because they wanted to get the correct spelling of the player's name. And it's like 9:30 and I'm leaving the movie theaters. And I see like the email that was sent to me. So I was like, oh, damn, I'm sorry. I hope this don't mess up my chances. But then Brad told me like, oh, nah, we love your work. Like, cause I guess they saw that
you even publicize everything.
Not even that, but more so that the traction I was getting. So
okay.
that kind of got him interested. And then he sent me the credential link. Then I went from there. And then February 19th, as I'm going to Philly, I found out that I got approved. And I was like, wow. Like, and mind you, the deadline was supposed to be March 3rd. I got approved early. I'm like, yo, like, this is crazy. But, that McDonald's experience for me was amazing. Like, and I've covered other All-Star games. But, there's something different about this one,
Maybe because it was in New York or just how you were able to get it?
Just the fact that it was in New York. The fact that I didn't have to travel to another state just for that event. And it was like the third time that they had ever been in New York. 1994 and 02 was the other two times. But, yeah, I mean, just to be able to cover that event in my city was special because I remember the days when I couldn't cover the big events.
Facts.
So,
Facts. All right. So let's pivot a little bit. as when I asked you in the beginning, you spoke on photojournalism, multimedia, right?
Right.
So one word when it comes to journalism as a whole, or one phrase, is journalistic duty. What is your definition of journalistic duty?
Somebody that tries to get a good story and tells the story the right way.
Mm-hmm.
That's my duty, or that's how I perceive my duty to be.
Do you think other media, whether me, other people in this room, other people we've probably worked with, shared a baseline with, other forms of media, do you think that we all abide by at least your form or a general form of journalistic duty?
Well, I look at it like this. It all depends on what they're looking to do with their platforms, I only look at what I do with mine, but, that's up for them to decide.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, and for me, one of my journalistic duties is to tell the story the right way, but also tell a different side of the story that not everyone is also trying to look for.
Right, exactly.
The glitz and the glamour. I try to look for some of the dirt, not the dirt on the person, but the dirt that gets put on them.
Right.
Whatever. Not all the moments where they look good is also. I feel like it's also good to show some of someone's bad moments to see how far they've come.
Yeah.
And also just not being afraid to tell a story, even if it's not the best story out.
Yeah.
I think that's what my journalistic duty is. Trying to just tell the other side.
Right.
But with
everything isn't pretty, so sometimes there are those stories that might be uncomfortable, but you still got to do it regardless.
Do you have a story that probably is a few years old that still rings in your head, no matter what time of day it is, or whenever you're just constantly thinking about whatever? Is there a story you've written, a player you've covered that still rings in your head no matter what you do?
Jawan Daniels,
a.k.a. Wani. Just in case you didn't know.
Shout out to Wani.
Why his story? I have some type of knowledge of his story, but try to give a little synopsis on why that's your favorite.
With him, his story is forever one of my favorites. So he was a kid from Harlem that went to school in New Jersey. He had got in trouble for some things, gang activity, and that landed him in prison. So the very first time that I went to Peach Jam, 2016, he was supposed to be there, but unfortunately he got locked up before he could do that. And then in the story, you'll see that he talked about being locked up on his 18th birthday. He was on lockdown that day.
That's a tough show.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever think about that.
So basically, he told me this. He's told me the story. Like he had always wanted me to tell that story. So one day I was able to interview him somewhere, and then we got down, and it's like I think that was probably the story that got everybody really paying attention to me.
Okay.
And around this time that I interviewed him, he won Nike Player of the Year for New York versus New York in 2017, which was the very first year. So, and I think that people from Nike, they actually liked that. They actually liked that story. But sadly, because of that legal pass, like it kind of turned off a lot of coaches. There were certain schools that couldn't touch him because of his legal situation. But I mean, he's turned his life around. He graduated from Prairie View A&M Black College. You know what I'm saying? Like he's done well. He's playing overseas. So every time I see him, I gotta say what's up to him. Like his story will forever be one of my favorite ones.
We might have to get him on the show.
Yeah, you got to.
You might have to have that man on the show, Wani, if you're watching this.
Yeah, just the fact that he changed his life. Like those are the stories that you gotta tell. You know what I'm saying? Like I just mentioned, like every story is not gonna be pretty. Sometimes you gotta tell the rough stories.
All right. What is any of what you do gratifying? We just spoke on the Wani story, so I guess that kind of helps that answer. But what satisfies you at the end of a shoot, at the end of an interview, at the end of just posting something on Instagram? What gratifies you? What satisfies you to be like, okay, yeah, I did a good job with that one?
Seeing the reaction of the people and how they love it.
See, I like that answer But are you doing it for the people, or is it just when they respond in a certain way, that's what allows you to be happy about your work?
I think it's more the fact that I did something that I felt I could be proud of, something that I enjoyed talking about. That's when it satisfies me, and that's when, and just seeing the people's reaction.
Okay. What should us in media do better to help publicize our student athletes?
Definitely just continue to promote them because the newspapers unfortunately won't do it
Not anymore.
anymore.
Yeah, that sports
Not
division is
anymore.
done.
So, and I was thinking about this before I came here today. So, we live in the media in a probably one of the three biggest media markets in the world:
Mm-hmm.
New York, L.A., Chicago. Well, I should say in the United States, but yeah, New York is definitely the biggest media market in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it comes to sports, we have two NBA teams, two Major League Baseball teams, two NFL teams, a soccer team.
Yeah. You said hockey yet? You didn't. You said
About
hockey?
yeah, two hockey teams,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you got 6 Division I schools in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
7 Division I schools in New Jersey, 1 Division I school in Westchester County, 2 in Long Island. So basically, out of the 15 Division I schools in the tri-state area, 3 are gonna get the most coverage, which is St. John's, Rutgers, and Seton Hall.
Indeed.
So the sad part about it is the other teams, they got to win a certain number of games or they got to make the conference tournament just to get that recognition. And now as far as high school sports is concerned, a lot of people that I knew that were involved with the publications like the Post, the Daily News, a lot of them unfortunately got gutted because it's like
Mm-hmm.
they feel like these corporations feel like, what I'm saying, like high school is on the back burner. High school is not as important anymore when you have all these pro sports teams. But places like Westchester County, like you see, they got Stepinac and Iona Prep.
Mm-hmm.
They still come to the games, but they only doing that for those 2 schools.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? Long Island, if they come into the city for an event, it's just for Lehigh.
That's a fact.
So
That's a
the
fact.
city kids, unfortunately, is lacking. Like platforms like ours, platforms like Shay's Days, Hoop Dreams NYC, Mellow Film, Stephen Carrasco, like we all serve a purpose out here.
All right. So now let's flip it to the athlete. What should a student athlete do better in this age to help themselves?
They got to figure out how to market themselves the correct way. You know what I'm saying? Like how would they want to be? Ask themselves how would they want to be perceived? Because image is everything.
So I'm hearing no more spam accounts is what I'm hearing. Okay. All right. You touched on it earlier. But I think this is a proper time to get into that. PSAL versus Catholic League. Me and my other guys in here have definitely spoken about this. Some tough debates on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start here because I know we can do a lot with that. So in the second annual PSAL versus CHSAA New York City Championships, for the boys side, Catholic League won, swept the round 3-0.
Yeah.
What does that tell you when you see 3 Catholic schools, 3 different levels beat 3 different public schools on those respective levels?
So, I mean, it shows that the Catholic schools, they're more fundamentally sound. Like, don't get me wrong, the PSAL, they have their great teams, but it's something different about these Catholic schools. You know what I'm saying? 2 out of the 3 schools were from Westchester County.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout outs to Sacred Heart and Stepinac, you know what I'm saying? But definitely Sacred Heart because they're a team that nobody was really looking at because, they're in like the 3rd largest city in the state of New York. They're in an area where there's only 8 public high schools. So they got to fight to get that attention. And this year, Sacred Heart, they did their thing. St. John's Prep,
Shout out St. John's Prep.
yeah,
All right.
shout outs to my man John Kiggins. So when I was a student
That's the
manager,
head coach over there?
yeah.
All right.
So when I was the student manager at St. Francis, he was the student manager at Iona. So I've been knowing him for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? Like he's done an amazing job with that crew. You know, Ryan Edwards.
Mm-hmm. The spirit of that team feels contagious.
Yeah,
I've only been able to watch them 2 or 3 times, but in each time that I've watched them play or recorded them, you can kind of feel their energy through the screen.
Yeah.
And Melo had pointed this out to me when they won the Class A championships.
Mm-hmm.
They do an applause to the crowd
Yeah.
after every game, and that's almost like soccer-like. So for me to see that from a basketball team, I think that was very dope. And whatever culture that Coach Higgins, you said, right? Is that his name, Coach Higgins? Kiggins.
Yeah.
So whatever culture that he's building over there, it's a sight to see for sure.
Indeed. And of course, you know, Stepanak, they've been consistent for the last, I would say, 7-8 years.
Facts.
So they've been holding it down.
Indeed, they have.
Holding down the area. And Shari G. Irv, I gotta say this. Me and you had a conversation on Instagram through DM, but
oh my god!
And I told he because you know he didn't like when I said this a while back.
Talk to me. What he didn't like?
But I said the 2 best schools in the New York metro area are not in the city.
I remember when you said that. Okay, let's talk about that.
It's
I
true.
think that leads to kind of my next question. So, those 2 teams are
Lehigh and Stepanak.
All right. So when you say Lehigh, they have a national schedule, just almost on par with Stepanak, but that varies. They're nationally ranked.
Number 3 in the country.
So talk about it. Do you think that their resources are because of location or because of money? Or maybe, all right, both. To that you say what? How would a team like a Jefferson or a team like a Naz or a team like a Eagle Brooklyn try to raise their stature to where they can be like, okay, I wouldn't say nationally ranked, but at least make a game versus Stepanak or Lehigh very competitive?
They got to play hard. They got to play tough. And shout outs to Lawrence Bud Pollard, you know what I'm saying, and his incredible staff. You know what I'm saying? This year, they were the best team in the city, bar none. You know what I'm saying? They fought to the very end, even without Jada, who was in foul trouble that day. You know what I'm saying? Like, the PSAL teams, they play very hard when they get out on the floor. Like, they play very gritty. Like, the Catholic schools are a little more disciplined, but one thing I love about the public schools is that they're very gritty. And you saw that with Eagle Bronx this year. You saw that with Canarsie. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're
Appreciate
back
it.
from outer space. Nah, let me stop.
Nah, but yeah, that was fire, and we back, guys. Little brief break. A little technical issue, but it's all right. But back to our conversation. I know we was talking PSAL versus Catholic League.
Yeah.
As we wind down here, you had a reference. PSAL schools play much harder.
Yeah, they do.
The word that you used was gritty.
Yeah, they play very gritty. I'm not gonna say it's harder than the Catholic schools because you know, the Catholic schools they have their, they have their toughness as well. But the PSAL schools don't back down. That's for sure.
What about how? See, when in that discussion, I would say the Catholic League has more of a system offense, or they have systems
exactly
that can mirror a college basketball team sometimes, depending on the squad. PSAL is more run up and down, run and gun.
Right, exactly.
Let your stars or big time players do what they have to do.
Work out.
Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay. Do you think that separation or distinction is what holds the PSAL back from being at a higher stature?
Exactly.
Is that the only reason you have in your head?
I agree. Everything you just said.
Okay. All right. So you just said it earlier. Jefferson is the best team in New York City, and I remember in my DMs you said you consider those type of discussions. You have to take into account geographically. New York City, tri-state area, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens.
Okay.
So you talk to me. Let's try to explain to the people why you say these
that, because you know everybody thinks about if you ask anybody in the area, they're gonna say Stepanak. And the only reason they say Stepanak is because they've been winning.
True.
Because they're in the AA.
Okay.
But you got to remember, Stepanak wasn't always in the AA. Even when they were in the A, they still had good teams.
They got into the AA like 2018, 2017, I believe it was.
No. Longer
before that.
Much longer than that. Because Rice closed in 2011.
Facts.
So then. Yeah, a couple teams moved up. It was Hayes, Iona Prep, Stepanak.
Okay.
It was Scanlon eventually.
All right.
But
So
yeah,
early 2010s, we would say
right.
they moved up. All right.
So they moved up. So they had some really good players. You know, Tim Philp, who's the head coach now at Iona Prep. He was coaching at Stepanak for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
His last year, he won Coach of the Year. So I mean, yeah, I feel like Stepanak, they've been doing wonderful. You know what I'm saying? So best team in the New York metropolitan area is a better fit for them. Now, the best team in the city, when I think of New York City, I think of the 5 boroughs.
Indeed.
The Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, and Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So for this year, let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
for
let's fix
it. For this year, the best team in the city resides in East New York, Brooklyn.
Okay, and that is Thomas Jefferson.
By far.
If we talking New York metropolitan area, you got Stepanak, because that's a broader area we talking about.
Yeah, New York metropolitan area, it's a toss-up between Lehigh.
Yeah, I was about to be, where does Lehigh fall into this? Because I feel like people in New York that are in the high school scene tends to just put Lehigh in a separate bracket by themselves.
Right, yeah, you can't. So, yeah, it's a toss-up between them.
Okay, all right. I'm going to put you on the spot for this one.
Okay.
Because the last time, I don't know if they've played since then, but the last time that I saw Step versus Lehigh packed them up pretty good. That was in the States.
Yeah, 2023.
That was in the States when they did. That was the last States that they ever did.
And yeah,
and Lehigh packed them up. Jaden Reed went crazy. But who would you pick if they matched up right now, one game?
Oh boy,
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I got
I had to pick between both of them. It would have to be Lehigh for sure.
Okay,
because Lehigh, like Stepanak, has some weapons, but Lehigh is a lot more dominant for sure. This year's Lehigh team was definitely dominant. Stepanak's team, they had some great players, but this wasn't their best team. The Stepanak teams of the last 2 years were way better than this year's team. I feel like
I can agree to that.
This year's Stepanak team, they had games that they should have lost, but talent got them over.
Or maybe some mistakes on the other side got them over.
That too.
And we all know when you have mistakes, when you have Stepanak where you want them, and you have those mistakes, that's where you lose the game. We saw that with St. Ray's
championship. Yeah, the championship. Both. The Archdiocese championship game and the city championship game. That's what, you know what I'm saying. Like, if St. Ray's had done certain things correctly, things would have. You know what I'm saying. Things would have been completely different. But shout out to St. Ray's also. You know, shout outs to Jorge Lopez, the head coach.
Jorge Lopez.
Made, like, for the first time in 13 years, he made the city championship. So, you know what I'm saying? That's something to be admired. B Stores and Ty.
Shout out B Stores, Ty Turnage.
Yeah, man. They both going on to the Division I.
Aren't they top 2 in St. Ray scoring right now?
Yeah, B Stores is the all-time leading scorer.
Facts.
Ty is the second leading scorer.
That's fire to walk out like that. That is fire. I ain't going to lie to you. That is fire. As we wind down, because I know the studio big homie going to try to start knocking on that door very soon.
He is.
We could try. This is my second to last question.
Okay.
How important is or should a high school championship be for a student athlete?
That's very important because it's something that the kids always dream about. It's like there's only but so many kids that will ever get to play in a city championship game or even a state championship game for that matter or a district championship. So it's very important. Like, for me, in my lifetime, I've seen the New Jersey Tournament of Champions, New York State Federation Championship, and, of course, you know, the city championships that we've seen in New York.
Facts, yeah.
And also the Philly Catholic League Championship and also Geico Nationals. So it's like, to be able to call yourself a champion is a big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that can never be taken away from you, no matter what league you're in. Just to have been able to win a championship is something that many want, but few can achieve.
Yes, sir. That was well said. I'm gonna put you on the spot one more time. Better brand of basketball: New York City, Jersey, CT, or other since you've been to other places?
Oh man.
I know your CT homies. I know CT love you too, Dave.
Yeah.
I know they do. Talk to me. I know.
New York is always gonna be. I'll always hold New York high above above any other state.
Yeah.
But
Ooh.
New Jersey, they have their own style.
Indeed they do. Indeed they do.
What helps them also is the fact that they have no shot clocks, so they can slow the game down whenever they want.
I don't like the no shot clock.
I don't either.
I don't. Philly has that too. Indiana got that too. I don't like that. That's not conducive.
Yeah, the PSA, the Philly Catholic League Championship, they always slow the games down.
That's nasty.
If you ever get the chance to go to the Palestra in February,
okay,
it's the hottest thing out. They make Fordham look
like trash.
Listen,
hey, I know
they sell out them crowds 9,000, which is twice the amount that Fordham holds. Like
my point,
wall to wall,
standing room only. That's that phrase again. Facts.
And then Connecticut. They tough out there. You know what I'm saying? Like this year, I was able to cover a few games in CT. Shout outs. One kid that really impressed me, his name is Abdul Turay from Notre Dame West Haven.
I feel like I know who is he dark skin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guard. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
So last year, they were 28-0.
Oh, that's fire.
They won the state championship. This year, they won the state championship. Again, they only lost one game. So, and he was the Gatorade State Player of the Year. So, yeah, man, they that team. And then shout out to Sincere Folk. He was at South Shore recently.
Yeah, word.
He's at East Catholic now.
Oh, that's where he's at?
Yeah.
Okay. In CT?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's actually from there.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I did not know
But,
that.
I mean, yeah, the games up in CT are pretty cool. When you go to New Haven, you got to go to Hill House.
Okay.
Because they have a whole arena. Like, they have a track on the other side, but the court, it's a big court. It's huge. Bigger than anything you would see out here in the city. Like, it's pretty dope. And then they have their state championships at Mohegan Sun.
Mohegan?
Yo, like this.
Nah, that's how you do it, though.
No, St. Bernard versus Notre Dame West Haven. The whole lower bowl was filled up.
Okay, so I know I don't want to cut you, but that, in comparison to 2023 PSAL Championship in Barclays, pick one. Which atmosphere was, because we all know who was there. Jefferson, Eagle, Brooklyn.
Yeah, Jefferson, Eagle, Brooklyn was a little bit better.
Okay.
Because this year's championship game between St. Bernard and Notre Dame West Haven, they had a lot more people, even people up in the rafters.
Respect.
You know what I'm saying? But Jefferson, Eagle, Brooklyn, in comparison to that, was a much better game because it was closer.
Okay. All right. And Barclays Center, on behalf of New York City, we are sorry. A lot happened that night. And we are no longer allowed in there for PSAL, I think.
It's a shame. It's a travesty.
It is a travesty because
I really feel sad for these kids that will never get a chance to see them play in the Barclays in their lifetime,
or even an NBA gym like it should be. Facts. But
it is what it is.
It is what it is. I don't like to rush the ending, but time constraints. But I'll give a quote that I found in one of your articles on your website. It says, "We are living proof that a small platform can shine amongst the mainstream platforms." I'll let you close out with that. When you hear that, what do you think, and why did you put that in your piece?
I feel like basically without us, sometimes even the bigger platforms might not even know what's going on. Like we are something that gives, gives a light to the unknown. You know what I'm saying? Like we could tell stories better than sometimes even a bigger publication. It's how you tell the story that matters.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? Like some publications, they tell stories, but it's not authentic. You know what I'm saying? It's like they try to put it out there because it's popular. You know what I'm saying? But when this falls back to what we were talking about earlier. When you tell the story right, people will appreciate it more.
Yes, sir. All right. This is the part where if you have anything else on your chest that you want to say to the people, this is your camera right here. And take it away, Dave's joined. If not, I'll sign us out.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for supporting me. These 10 years have flown by quick. And definitely keep supporting the website, socials and all that. You know, definitely. If you ever see me at a game, definitely show love. Shout outs to all the people in the high school and college space, especially the St. John's fans. That, like, you know what I'm saying?
Manny Johnny's.
Yeah, this year was incredible. You know what I'm saying? For all the people that noticed me at the Garden, thank you. Love you all. Yeah, thank you to everybody that supported me thus far. The tournament directors, coaches, spectators, everywhere. Thank you.
Hey man, that's 10 years of Dave's joint. Let's pray for another 10. Let's hope that he can elevate so he can keep continuing to give us these great stories from different perspectives. First and foremost, thank you for being on this show. We were supposed to do this a little while back, but I had to get my life together.
It's all good, bro.
But I thank you. Maybe if you guys want a part 2, we can do that. I feel like there's still some stuff where we didn't touch on. But we could always spin a block. There are always more things to talk about. And we could call you a historian. We could call you a journalist. We could call you a lot of things. But make sure you call him Dave Joint when you see him. Shake his hand. Have a smile. All of that. And he'll do the same. Dave, appreciate you. 100 grand. SwayReportingLive 101 sit-downs. We are mother back.